What's going on, my fellow basketball sickos? The Mavericks went into Minnesota and stole Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals. They were led by Luka and Kyrie, who just absolutely picked apart this Wolves defense, who decided they were going to play their pick and rolls and drop coverage, and Luka and Kyrie got whatever they wanted to anytime they involved Gobert in the action. But as I was breaking down some of these plays, it became clear that the Wolves defense as a whole had plenty of mental lapses, and it wasn't just Gobert, and even Anthony Edwards got caught being lazy on a few of them. So in this film study, I will break down how Luka and Kyrie absolutely obliterated this Wolves defense and stole Game 1. Here's the first example of the Mavericks running a high pick and roll while Gobert was in drop coverage. When the screen happens, he gets up to the three-point line, but because the screen was set so high, there's still plenty of room for Luka to operate and for him to be able to get Jaden McDaniels on his back. And then as Gafford starts to roll, Gobert keeps dropping further and further in the paint. But McDaniels is never able to get back in front of Luka, so Luka and Gafford are basically playing in a 2-on-1 situation until eventually Gobert falls all the way back, Luka bumps McDaniels off of him and knocks down the easy floater to start the game. Here the Mavericks are pushing in semi-transition. Derrick Jones tries to attack with Kyrie in the left corner, and as he attacks, he loses the ball, and this is where the mistake is made. McDaniels takes one step towards gambling for the steal, and Kyrie instantly reacts to this and back cuts. And then when Kyrie catches it, we can see that Gobert does not come out of the restricted area. And as we continue to keep watching these clips, that will become a trend where he stays in that area or barely gets out of it, and they take advantage of it this whole game, like Kyrie does here, and he shoots the little floater. This time, the Mavericks run a double screen for Luka, and Gobert is deep in drop coverage this time. So Jones hits McDaniels with a good screen, and now Luka is able to get him on his back again. And actually, Conley does a really good job here of holding up the roller in Gafford and keeping him from getting an easy rim run. And because of this should have allowed Gobert to press all the way up on Luka because the roller was being held up, so there was more time for him to get back once McDaniels finally caught up to Luka and got in front. But instead, Gobert drops all the way back into the restricted area again, and Luka uses the fact that McDaniels is on his hip, and he big bodies him to make another floater. This pick and roll is ran with Kyrie right at the three-point line, and again Gobert is in the drop and is giving Kyrie tons of space to operate. So Kyrie attacks and eats up this space, and Gobert actually comes up a little higher this time to contest. And honestly, when I pause it right here, I feel like Kyrie made the wrong read here because the lob was wide open to Lively, as we can see, but that is kind of the risk you take when you run drop coverage, is it allows the guards to attack that space, and when their defender is on their hip, it essentially turns into a 2-on-1 situation where there's no way the defender can win, especially not against the players like Luka and Kyrie. So Kyrie is able to make another floater right here. Here the Mavs are in transition, and the Wolves do not communicate who is going to pick up the ball and guard Kyrie. Ant, McDaniels, and Naz Reid all go like they will pick him up, but none of them actually do. But before I play it any further, just look at this transition defense. Nobody is inside the three-point line, much less ready to guard the paint and ready to guard the rim. So Kyrie recognizes this and attacks the rim and gets an easy and one. Again, we have another pick and roll where this time Gobert actually plays textbook pick and roll defense. As Luka comes off, he plays up enough on the ball to prevent a shot and to give time for McDaniels to get back around, all while still being close enough to stop the roll. So they did a great job on this play and actually make Luka pick up his dribble. And then this is where we start to see the simple defensive lapses by the Wolves. Ant is guarding Derrick Jones Jr., but he is not seeing ball in man, and he is just watching Luka. So Derrick Jones starts to vacate the area for spacing, but then he sees that there is a cut wide open, and he cuts, and Luka finds him, and they get another easy basket. On this play, Gobert actually mixes it up. The Mavs set a double screen, and when Luka comes off, Gobert actually traps him. Conley also does a great job of tagging the roller, and Naz Reid is also in the back ready to tag as well. But despite all this, Luka just does Luka things, and he jumps in the air, and he looks off Conley and Reid, which causes them to take one step out towards their man and away from the roller, and then he drops the no-look dime to Gafford for another dunk. Here, Kyrie pushes it in transition, and McDaniels is never able to catch him and get around and get in front. But the problem is the fact that Cat runs to the middle of the floor, but then he just stands there at the three-point line when there's only two Mavericks players across half court. And another problem is also the fact that Naz Reid doesn't help McDaniels at all by trying to slow down Kyrie and making him change directions or stop and by cutting off the sideline right here. He just kind of gets out of the way, and Kyrie gets a straight line, coast-to-coast layup on the left side of the floor because of basic mistakes made by the defense. This time there's no pick and roll involved, and Luka gets an ISO, and he attacks the paint. When he attacks, McDaniel has to step up and help, which he does, and Naz Reid, who is guarding the man in the corner, has to help the helper, so he slides over on Lively, which he does a good job of. But again, Luka just being Luka, looks off Naz Reid, just a subtle head fake, causing him to step out towards the corner, and then he bounces the look-away pass to Lively for another easy dunk. On this play, Gafford sets a screen to give Kyrie some freedom from McDaniels, and obviously, I do not expect Gobert to be this far up in the screen. I mean, this is not Steph Curry. It is Kyrie Irving, but it's not Steph Curry. So Kyrie pushes it towards him, and he crosses over. And honestly, I don't even expect Gobert to be able to keep up with him this far out. The issue on this play is Mike Conley. He clearly sees that Gobert is about to get beat off the dribble, and McDaniels is behind the play. So his job is to come over and help early and make Kyrie get rid of it early and stop the ball, like at least at the free throw line or higher. But as the play continues, we can see that he never fully commits, and Kyrie gets another coast-to-coast layup, which just should not happen in playoff basketball. And then here to end the half, Kyrie gets the handoff in the backcourt, going to his right hand, and he attacks hard that way. And obviously McDaniels cannot catch him because he was clipped a little bit, so Kyrie is able to turn the corner. But the issue is that as soon as that happened, Gobert should have came way over to help. If we look at the clock here, there is 1 second left on the clock. Kyrie does not have time to make a pass and for somebody to go up with it. So Gobert should have came all the way over. But again, he does not leave the restricted area, and Kyrie makes another floater to end the half. These next few plays are simply Kyrie and Luka just making the right read and being patient against the drop. On this one, Kyrie comes off the screen. He eats up the space that they're giving him and gets the defender on his hip. And again, Gobert is put in a 2-on-1 situation, and as he attacks, it just simply leads to an easy lob dunk. This time, Luka comes off the screen, and he snake dribbles to keep the defender on his back and to put more pressure on Rudy Gobert in the back. And he gets all the way to the rim, and he makes it look like he is shooting it, and this is what James Harden is really good at. So Gobert comes over to contest, and Luka just does a good job of throwing the lob midair. Here, the ball gets swung to P.J. Washington, and as soon as he catches it, he attacks to his right hand. And as we can see, Anthony Edwards, who is guarding Kyrie in the corner, standing straight up and actually turns his back to Kyrie. So Kyrie sees this, reacts, and he back cuts. And when he gets it on the cut, this forces Gobert to have to slide over in to help. And Kyrie simply reads this, dishes it to Gafford for another easy basket that was all started by a simple defensive lapse by Ant. This time, Luka just comes off the screen, gets McDaniels on his hip like he's been doing the entire game, and he snakes towards his right hand. And Gobert keeps dropping, so Luka has plenty of space with the defender still on his left hip. So he steps back and he drains the easy jumper. This time, Kyrie comes off the screen to his left. But instead of Rudy Gobert being involved in the action, it's actually Cat this time. So he comes up, but his mistake was that he allows Kyrie to turn the corner. He should have either angled himself and forced him to the sideline, or just completely hedged him and make him do an escape dribble. But you can't allow him to turn the corner in this situation. But another problem is that even when Kyrie does turn the corner and beat Cat, and I hate to keep picking on Rudy Gobert, but he is hesitant again to leave the restricted area, and Kyrie simply is able to pull up for an easy floater. Then there were a string of jumpers in the fourth quarter by Luka, where he just was patient against the drop and got the shot that he wanted. On this one, he comes off the screen, and he traps McDaniels behind him, and just patiently waits for Gobert to drop all the way back into the paint. And then he uses his leverage to create enough space to get the shot off, and he drains the shot. This one, he comes off the screen to his right, and he traps McDaniels once again, and he attacks and patiently waits for Gobert to drop when the roll comes, and then he snakes to his left and hits another step-back jumper. And then lastly, we have the biggest shot of the game, where Luka gets the rebound and pushes the ball in transition. And as he pushes it, we can see that the Mavs have numbers and are in a 4-on-3 situation, so they have an advantage. Ant does a good job of picking up the ball. Conley picks up Kyrie. And then here we have Cat standing in the middle of the paint when he sees that Washington is about to be wide open. When the ball gets swung, he should have rotated out to Washington because the other Mavs player was Derrick Jones that was in the opposite corner. But instead, he stands there and allows Washington to get a wide open three with 2 minutes left in the game to give the Mavs the lead. So just in the clips that I showed, it is evident that it was a mix of the game plan to play drop coverage, the lack of focus from the Wolves as a whole, and just the greatness of Luka and Kyrie that contributed to this win by the Mavs. Drop coverage is not the answer against the two guards of this caliber. We saw how it just kept putting Gobert in tough 2-on-1 situations, and I don't care how many Defensive Player of the Years he has won. that is impossible for anyone to stop on a consistent basis. But it was not purely his fault. There was also plenty of mental defensive lapses that allowed easy buckets. So the Wolves definitely have some things to look at in the film room over the next few days, and they need to make some adjustments. But no matter what they do, it is going to be a tough task slowing down Luka and Kyrie. Thanks for checking out the channel. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and check out some more of our content.